Okay.
Did I say leave it or got it? Okay, got it.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. My name is Anuradha Dasi. Welcome to our very first, the Grhastha perspective. We have so many esteemed speakers with us today. Really, the purpose of this is to be able to understand what it means to have a successful Krishna conscious marriage, and especially one rooted in the teachings and followership of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So I really have the best of the best with us today in terms of married life. So I want to first introduce Shriman Mahabali Prabhu and Shriman Rasbihari Didi. So they've been married for 42 years. They actually been married the longest of everyone. Next, we have Shriman Mukunda Prabhuji and Shrimati Mohini Didi. They've been married for 24, going on to 25 years. And next we have Shriman Vishnu Prabhu and Shrimati Arti Didi. They've also been married for 25 years. And then finally, we have hailing all the way from Vrindavan Dham, Shriman Kishori Mohan Prabhu and Shrimati Sudevi Didi. They have been married for 27 years. So collectively, you all have been married for around 118 to 119 years. So I spent the time doing the math. It's very amazing. Sort of, unheard of nowadays to be married this long, but still very amazing nonetheless. So I'm very grateful to have all of you with us. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I just want to get started. Even pre-Grihastha ashram, just in terms of kind of a courting phase, I wanted to ask, do you recommend Vedic compatibility charts? Do you recommend Vedic astrology charts that this should be done beforehand? Or do you feel that this should kind of be taken with a grain of salt? And so anyone can answer this, maybe Mahabodhi Prabhu, since you are very scholarly.
Yeah, we we did have our astrological Jyotish charts being done. I think it said not to get married because we were like opposite, and so
no, he said it won't. They're very compatible, but they don't get along together. They'll be married for a long time, but they don't see eye to eye. But
that was true.
Yeah, we don't see eye to eye at all.
We are opposites. I think that's maybe why we've been married so long, because we can have different opinions, and it's like a Kshatriya marriage where we're always battling back and forth, but come to a common platform and go forward. But we took the Jyotish, so you can use it as a guide, but you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Look at Sita's wedding; she had everybody there. Look at Sita's wedding; she had everything auspicious, right? Everything was done according to Vedic. But look at her karma; it's basically karma.
Yeah, thank you.
And you have to fight a lot so you'll stay together, because you need somebody to fight.
Right, absolutely. So this next question, and if anyone else wants to chime in on that answer, maybe Vishnu Prabhu, Mukunda Prabhu, Kishori Mohan Prabhu, whoever, if you feel that, we should do Vedic astrology charts, or possibly just take them with a grain of salt, that, it's a good guide, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% there. Any thoughts on those?
Yes, so we went through the same thing. We had an astrologer look at our charts. So astrology is a great science. It's a great Vedic science, and it can certainly give very important guidance, as well as preview into how the life is going to unfold for the couple, and also basically alert each other about their weaknesses and strengths. I think in any astrology, as it's important is the person who's reading your chart. And over the years, as I have experienced discussing with various astrologers, if the astrologer is not a professional, he's really practicing as a Vedic science, then their readings do have meaning. Otherwise, what we see nowadays is more of a commercial thing. They will kind of read it and then tell you a few, as they call, upai, and basically a way for them to make money. I don't have much faith in their readings, but anyone who's a good astrologer, strictly following it as per the Vedic rules and regulations, yes, they do provide a lot of meaningful insight. But end of the day, if Sri Guru is blessing the marriage and you follow his instructions, that's what matters. And in our case, actually, Sri Gurudev had basically, blessed it. So whatever the astrologer said, he said everything would be fine. But for us, the most important thing was Gurudev's blessings.
Thank you. I think it's probably been mostly the same for maybe all of you, probably with the exception of maybe Mahabodhi Prabhu and Shrimati Rasbihari Didi, that all of your marriages were essentially like guided by Srila Gurudev. Is that correct? Like Srila Gurudev was the one who, gave the okay that both of you should be together.
Well, he married us.
Wow.
But when I was younger, my father was quite into getting astrological readings, and I received a reading when I was about 19 years old that really disturbed me heavily. And basically it was a prediction that I would be fully into drugs and completely away from bhakti. And it was weighing so heavy on me, this fear and hesitation that was coming because of the astrological reading, that when I got with Sudevi, I decided I didn't want to hear anything that would jinx our relationship, because the moment, we didn't have your traditional prearranged Indian wedding. It was, we held hands and she said, "Do you know what this means?" And I said, "Yes." And that was it. We knew we were going to be married and there was no turning back. And so we chose to never get our astrology read from that time, because we didn't want any negative influence or negative idea to come into our relationship that, oh, you're going to have problems, you might have this difficulty, and then we would be expecting it, and it could actually make us think, oh, maybe this is not meant to be. So we decided to opt out from getting any astrology done for our marriage.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really interesting take on this in relation to not having a negative influence on your marriage with having a Vedic reading. That's really nice. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes.
So my understanding, the astrology is based on material nature, and that even that's why I look at it with a grain of salt, because Guru and Krishna can always, by their desire, they can always change. They're spiritual and material has nothing over the spiritual, so.
We did have a chart done, but we were married when we came to Srila Gurudev. So I met Srila Gurudev very early in '96 when he traveled. We had been married already, but we had a chart done by one astrologer.
We weren't married.
Yeah.
No, we weren't. And this is.
I think we've been together from previous lives, so.
Yeah, but.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to move on to our next question about the marriage ceremony itself. That what is the meaning of Sat Pere, meaning the 7 times that the husband and wife are circumambulating around Agni Dev? That what is actually the inner meaning behind this? I heard a few years back, Shriman Mukunda Prabhu in one class, he highlighted this point. So I would actually really love to hear the answer again from him, as well as, maybe Vishnu Prabhuji, if you can chime in.
There's 2 angles of vision. One is the the cultural angle of vision that goes along with the Vivaha Yagya and just the marriage ceremony. And basically it is karma kandish, if that's a word, in nature, because it asks for all the things that are appropriate to a material marriage, like wealth, prosperity, health, children, et cetera, et cetera. But for devotees in particular, the vows can take another meaning. In other words, all those same things can apply, but they can apply as things that you desire for service to Guru and Krishna. And I don't know if it was ever in the tradition. I know that when we were married, one of the things that happens is that on the 7th time that you go around in the circumambulation, you switch places. And I'll refer to Vishnu Prabhu to see if that's something that is traditionally done or whether that was something unique. And the explanation that we received at the time was that if somehow or another the husband should begin to falter, because the wife is Dharma Patni, part of that means she protects the Dharma of her husband. And the example was given of Atri Rishi and Anasuya. So that on the 7th time, actually the wife leads around to indicate that if there's any faltering in the husband as far as Dharma, then the wife agrees to take up that position to guide the family. So again, I think that for devotees, I think it's going to be different in terms of the emphasis of those things like wealth, prosperity, progeny, health, etc., because all of those things will be used to engage in the service of Guru and Krishna. I think void of having connection with Guru and Krishna, it becomes more like karma kanda, but expected because everyone wants those things in their married life. So that's what I've understood so far. And I think when I gave a class a long time ago, it was based on that analysis between the devotional ideal and the secular ideal.
So Vishnu Prabhuji, if there's anything you want to add.
Sure. So that's a beautiful explanation by Mukunda Prabhu. We were married by Shri Gurudev first, where he made us exchange garlands, but then he also instructed us to go through the Vedic ceremony, which was done by a very wonderful priest from Nandagaon. And he explained us through every step every time we took a round, what it meant. And, while several of those points kind of externally relate to material things, but if you read the actual Sanskrit verses, in each one of them, it's actually a prayer to the Lord, that by your blessings, the husband is saying that I will maintain my wife and children. He's giving a vow to the wife, and the wife is saying that I will be loyal to you and I will support you in each one of your endeavors. And you're doing this in front of Agni, the fire, which is a manifestation of the Lord. So this is a vow from both of them to support each other, both from a material as well as spiritual perspective. So, Grhastha ashram is one of the 4 ashrams, and in many ways, it is probably the foundation of the other ashrams, right? This is the only ashram in which the progeny is produced, and not in the brahmacharya, vanprastha, sannyas. Those would not be there if the grihastha ashram is not there. And if you look at the 4 varnas also, the basis of that is sannyasi is not a kshatriya or a vaishya. So even the 4 varnas are based out of grihastha. So just like when you enter an ashram, when you take initiation, there are 4 regulative principles that we take a vow to follow. Similarly, these are the 7 vows that you take to enter into this very important ashram. So that's what was explained to us. And yes, in the last one, Mukund Prabhu said, yes, we do change the positions. It was happened, and I think it was the last round. Before the first round starts, the wife is sitting on the right-hand side. And so the husband is leading, because as you stand up and you start walking, that's how the arrangement is. But then on the last one, she changes the position, and then she's sitting on the left side after that. So that's the sign of being married, right? Before marriage, the girl would never be on your left-hand side. So that's also symbolically you change positions, that now she's finally officially
Better.
married and you're better off. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. So, I mean, don't answer this question, but I just have it. I'm curious if it has anything to do with Srimati Radhika also being on the left side, because she is representing Shakti, Huladani Shakti. So don't answer the question. You can answer it at any other time. But I'm just curious if that has any relation to it. So, and Prabhuji, Vishnu Prabhu, you just mentioned about Grihastha ashram. So I wanted to just segue from that into what is actually Grihastha ashram versus what is Griha Medi, and what is the difference between the two? What does it mean to also uphold like this sort of sannyas vow even within Grihastha ashram? So maybe Mabudi Prabhu, Kishori Mohan Prabhu, Sudevi Didi, anyone?
Suddenly your voice cut out.
Yeah.
Did you hear me? Was that okay?
I didn't hear the question. Are you
Oh.
asking us or?
Yes. I was saying that what really is the difference between Grihastha and Griha Medi?
Grihastha is a bona fide ashram, and Grihastha means that the responsibility, it's just like any of the other four ashrams, that the center point has to be God, Krishna, and Radha and Krishna. So in the Grihastha ashram, it's not meant that we simply use it as a platform for sense enjoyment or use it as a platform just to only take care of children and family responsibilities. And then we have no relationship with God, with Krishna, because we're saying we're too busy. So the Grihastha ashram is meant as the majority of people more than likely will be in the Grihastha ashram, being married. As Vishnu Prabhu said, progeny will be there, but it's a platform for the opportunity to serve in the family setting as opposed to being a brahmachari. I was a brahmachari for 9 years before I was married. And so each of the different ashrams have different responsibilities and different social connections. So the Grihastha ashram is a great ashram to preach in, and that you can move from all over locations, all over the different types of people, and being able to preach without a lot of restrictions. In other words, whether you speak to men or women, or whether you go to different types of settings. When I was a brahmachari, we were completely under the order of Guru, and we were following specifically those guidelines. As a Grihastha, then I find it, if you're working with business and you're working with other things, you have so many avenues in which to preach from. So if you're taking the Grihastha ashram as a bona fide ashram to serve the spiritual master and Radha and Krishna in, then that's Grihastha. Griha Medi means if you're simply using it as a platform for self-enjoyment, for becoming lost in material activities, for Gramya Kata, for not serving the spiritual master's order, Radha Krishna's order. In this way, it's sort of, a platform that's really not spiritual at all. So the difference is, where do you put Krishna and service to Sri Guru in your marriage? And if it's the center point of your marriage, then everything rotates around it. So Grihastha he'll have deities, or he'll have a picture. He'll rotate around the main part of their house or room will be where the service to the spiritual master and deities at. If you come into a person's house and there's no recognition of God, then the question is, what kind of service are they doing? So they may have some internal service, but generally speaking, the Grihastha ashram is meant for, developing your Krishna consciousness. And I remember what Prabhupada told me. He also said it's a platform for suffering. So in other words, one of the things that, will come through it is like, usually if you've been married, and unless you're very, very fortunate, you probably don't want to do that again. In other words, it's a platform where there's so much compromise, there's so much having to condone and being able to move along for both the male and the female. So at a platform like this, gradually you can see how the spiritual desire to develop, your spiritual nature and your spiritual consciousness to be able to render pure service, to get out of this material realm of pounds, shilling, pence, birth, death, old age, and disease. And this should come as a realization for those that are actually in the Grhastha ashram to want to be able to move on further. If we stay in it forever and ever and not move on to dedicate our full activity, then we simply can even move from a Grhastha to a Grihamaiti, to where we're just, at some point in our life, and I'm getting there as I'm old, we have to come to the platform. When will we fully serve, out of Krishna and spirit and our spiritual master? So there's others can tell you the philosophical aspects, but I'm, that's where I'm coming from. And from the previous question about walking around seven things,
Seven lifetimes.
Huh?
I'm gonna go for 7 lifetimes.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to go 7 lifetimes around it, having to become married and go through this whole thing again. So part of the aspect for me is we were married with 7,000 people in a temple, and all, I had no idea of all the different stuff I was doing. I just wanted to get through it quickly. And I remember I spent 3 hours passing out prasadam to the thousands of people that were at our wedding. So I couldn't tell you what the 7 things were, circling around. Maybe my wife did. I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I don't know. Vishnu Prabhu gave a good explanation. For me, it's 7 times. What I read was you go 7 times and you're promising. There's a whole story you read in one of the scriptures about Agni and why and the seven lifetimes. I don't want to get into it.
So what about the Grhastha? Maybe your comments on that?
No,
You gave a good. I'm not a speaker.
no, that's okay. Thank you for adding that. I
Right
wanted-
here,
Huh? Can you hear me?
volume up. You're breaking up. Volume needs to go up.
Is that any better?
Yeah, it's
Much better.
Okay.
You had
So just let me know, if there's ever something like that. So I actually, I know that I mentioned Prabhuji, Kishore Mohan Prabhu and Sudevi Didi, but perhaps you guys can take this next question. Right now in our Sangha, there's a lot of women, especially, disciples of Srila Gurudev, who are living independent of a husband. So, Srila Gurudev mentions he wants his daughters to be very strong. He wants his, daughters to be educated, so that essentially they don't necessarily have to rely on a man or a husband. But Srila Prabhupada mentions how in all phases of a woman's life that she is to be protected. She's protected by her father in youth. She's protected by her husband as a young adult and adult life. And then in her elderly age, she's protected by her elderly sons. So my question is how to reconcile these sort of apparently contradictory statements. That is it absolutely necessary for a woman to be married, to be under the protection of a man, of a husband?
I know that Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, he very much wanted his daughters to be educated. And yes, so that they didn't have to depend on anyone. He said, because nowadays there's no guarantee that they will be cared for. It didn't mean that they should only be relying on themselves and shouldn't have any kind of protection in their lives. I can only speak from my personal experience and say that it's a great comfort for me to know that I have a partner. And going back a little bit to the last question, I mean, for me, having my husband is constant association for me. From the moment he gets up, he's quoting shlokas. I mean, I've actually had to start crying and tell him it's too much. So I have so much association, and it keeps me really inspired, or it keeps me on my toes. So he's my protection, and more than just being a female. I know that nowadays it's very, very different than what it was maybe even at the time of Srila Prabhupada. But even then it was like women's lib and burning braziers and all kinds of things going on. And he still liked this idea that the woman should be protected. And so I don't necessarily see that it's not reconcilable, because it's not one way or the other, I believe. I think that Gurudev just wanted to make sure that his daughters were cared for. He said, after you have your education, then you can go to Vrindavan. Then you can go and do what you want. But first, have your university education. Afterwards, as you like. But with his sons, they could easily go to Vrindavan, be in the ashram. But if you stay in India for any amount of time, you really do understand how it makes a huge difference when you're under some protection. I know ladies that aren't even married that wear bindis and bangles and toe rings to pretend they're married, so that they have the feeling of protection, and others see, oh, she has protection, we'll leave her alone. So it's really, I don't know. I think that it is reconcilable. It's not that Gurudev didn't want his daughters to be cared for, and necessarily it's not that you can't also be strong and be married, because you mentioned that Gurudev wanted his daughters to be strong. But I think that being strong doesn't necessarily mean being on your own.
What Srila Gurudev said in this particular context is that I don't trust men these days. Oh. It's not that he didn't want women to be married and to be protected. He wanted that they would be protected, but he didn't trust men because he saw that men were just using the women and then separating, and maybe vice versa. But he didn't trust them enough that they would look after their wife and their children and not leave them. So he wanted the women to be able to be self-dependent if they needed to be, in case the very, very realistic chance of separation would come up, because the rate is almost a guarantee of separation at least once or twice. So Srila Gurudev wasn't saying directly that a woman should be on her own. He wasn't contradicting Prabhupada. He was just seeing the context and instructing that they should be educated in case they needed to be self-dependent.
Yeah, thank you so much, Didi and Prabhuji. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Arti Didi, Moini Didi?
I think I agree with Sudevi Didi purely. And I also heard Srila Gurudev on various occasions that Gurudev was very keen and he really encouraged all his daughters to finish the university education, and then however they desire. And yeah, I completely agree.
Gurudev also wanted his daughters to be a good representative of him when he wanted them to go out and preach his mission, and education was the key for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't personally. Me, I don't. If a woman chooses not to get married, from my experience within ISKCON, I've seen too many women married 5-6 times. And that's like, I don't know what to say about it. I don't want to say anything bad. I don't want to criticize, but that's just not right. And I think if a woman chooses to be independent, and personally, that's my opinion, because I have nieces that don't want to get married. They're independent. They're not dependent on anyone. And, you know, they suffering. You'll suffer, you know, but I don't think that they really need a man. If they have Krishna, it's like, for me, I look at like Mirabai. She was, you know, she was completely, but you can be completely dependent on Krishna. That depends, like, you know, if you're a devotee and if you're advancing. But they have a choice. I think it's each one individually.
Right, right.
So personally, from my side, Prabhupada was very clear. And, you know, he was very clear about that point. I think Srila Gurudev, you know, as Kishore Mohan said, was concerned about some of the men being not very spiritually advanced and not taking care of some of the women. But at the same time, you know, saying, I have no objection of women preaching and, you know, from a spiritual equality platform, that's fine. But materially, having worked under very many different female managers as well, I mean, there's different psychological makeups between male and female. And, you know, Prabhupada had said in some of his discussions that, you know, the man naturally wants to take that, you know, superior position, whether that's natural or not, some happen. But I think this whole idea of the, you know, as we move along, women's lib and all these things, this is like social stuff going on. We don't change the Vedic conception because it becomes socially unpopular. So my point is more sticking toward Prabhupada, that a woman should be under control if she's independent by choice or independent by circumstance. Then by all means, she should be given help. If she has no additional children, or if she's under some temple structure, they should be also helping. But by their education and independence, if they can survive, that's fine. And spiritually, like we have seen some very wonderful women preachers that are, you know, are traveling, and that's wonderful. But at the same time, from a social perspective, it would be chaos from my perspective if you just tried to have all women independent and pretend that they're men, or all men on the other hand become effeminate, think they're women, you know, which we've seen on both sides of the fence currently in our petition. So, you know, I'll take the Prabhupada's situation. And I also think, as Kishore meant, I don't think there was a dichotomy between what Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev said, but I think Srila Gurudev also wanted to make sure that, you know, women weren't just thrown out into the street and with no protection or nothing. So therefore, getting their education, becoming, you know, spiritually somewhat independent. But he never said, and be independent from men. And I think that was in your comment on Radha, that was not said by Srila Gurudev. So I think the idea is that from a societal concept, you know, I'll stick with what Prabhupada said. From a spiritual concept, however advanced the woman is, she can be more advanced than the man, and that's not a problem. And they can be lead preachers. That's not a problem. But the difference is from a social platform, I don't think it's advantageous to have the woman take a man's position unless there's no man qualified. Tell you the truth.
I just wanted to add just one thing, and I know we want to move on. Oh, I'm sorry, Vishnu Prabhu, do you want to go first?
No, go ahead, Prabhuji.
I was just going to say that we have some social responsibility as a social body related to Srila Gurudev to be protective of the women in our society as well, whether it's needed or not. My wife is obviously highly educated. She could be completely independent. But I think just as a social responsibility to Srila Gurudev's service, that we should all consider, all the men should consider, we have some element of protective energy around the women of our society. And I think that if you look back historically, in any culture, there was a sense of protecting women, even if they did not have a direct link to a husband in their stage where they would be married. So we should see that way contemporarily, that in our society, we should consider that we should have some protective energy around the women in our society to make sure there is no exploitation or abuse and these kind of things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things. I think as everyone mentioned, there is both Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada, what they've said is not different, because in one sense it depends. What Srila Gurudev is saying, that it depends on the level of advancement of the individual, because ultimately whether you are married or not married, the key thing is you should advance spiritually. So if the woman is, because of previous sanskars and because of her strength, she is spiritually very advanced, and like Ras Bihari Didi gave example of Mirabai, who was married, but she never thought that Rana was her husband. She always accepted Krishna. So if that level is there, then yes, not getting married and just staying as a sadhvi, renounced, completely renounced, is perfectly fine. But otherwise, and I think this is not just for women, but or even for men, they have to see internally and honestly assess that we are at that level, because otherwise staying in a grihast is actually very beneficial. The previous question you had asked about the sannyas dharma, Upadeshamrita, the first verse is Vacho Vegam, Manasaha Krodh Vegam, Jiva Udarupas Vegam. If you really see these 6 urges, it's the grihastha ashram where you have the most opportunity to face them and to be able to control them, And so this is, in one sense, both not just for the man, but even for the woman. It's the preparation to step into the next phase of life, and that's why we have the provision of Vanprastha, and even the women, become more renounced. So I think in that sense, we can reconcile that it is based on an individual's level of spiritual advancement, and ultimate goal is that only.
And I'd like to say something. Sometimes, in talking about protection of women, you have to differentiate between protection and control. Okay, and there's some who are just not qualified to protect, and then there's this control thing that comes in, and I've seen where women have to protect themselves from the protector. Okay, so so what do you do? And this is where, my Srila Gurudev has given us very, very practical knowledge, on how to conduct ourselves, how to, because he wants us to be able to preach his mission. We can't be in any situation where we're being hindered, So if we can move forward together, as helpmates, and my husband, he's like, as far as protection, well, he's a retired police officer. He's like the ultimate protection for me. I defer to him as far as protection, period. But the control factor is, he's not a controlling person. I recognize his strengths, and he recognizes mine. So it's a mutual thing. We help each other so we can move forward in trying to accomplish what Srila Gurudev has asked us to do. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of you, for, yes, Prabhuji.
I'd just like to add a little bit from where Mahabodhi Prabhu came through. What Krishna spoke in Bhagavad Gita is true for all time. And the whole premise of how the Mahabharata war came about is because of unprotected women and men taking advantage of the unprotected status. And we've seen that in every single situation where there would be a conquesting war in any country, it would happen like that. And so the protection is also necessary. And when someone is talking about Mira and personalities like that, this is extremely rare for someone to really be on that level. And even we've seen so many of our the doctors of our Gurudev who might be without a man, still they have protection. Their family is there. There's somebody protecting. You don't go outside at night here. It's just not what a lady would do. maybe in the West, but even then it's not considered safe. So Krishna has already made this situation, he's already given the instruction and told what happens as a result. And you would see it almost naturally. So many who would go to school and get an education doesn't mean that they're not going to contribute to Varna Shankara, or unwanted population. When there's a proper structure, a Vedic dharmic structure of marriage, then the children that come about will be wanted and would be raised to be Krishna conscious, versus multiple relationships that come about and maybe children are produced and it's a very different kind of situation. So the whole beginning of Bhagavad Gita is all about this particular subject matter, and it is a principle that applies for all time.
Wow. There's so much to digest there with all of your answers. It's incredible, incredible. So I actually wanted to spend a little bit of time with the didis, the wives, because like I said before, oftentimes we don't hear, other than maybe Sudevi Didi, we don't really hear so much from the women behind these very well-known Prabhujis. You know, how they say, you know, behind every great man, there's a great woman, or perhaps even a greater woman. And if they don't say that, maybe they should. But I wanted to ask first, what or who is an ideal wife? How does she act? All right, so so Kishore Mohan Prabhu has indicated Sudevi Didi, so I will.
No, you asked who is an ideal wife, and I pointed at her.
Yes. But I'm also looking maybe to Didi or to Aarti Didi, Ras Bihari Didi, Mohini Didi. Any of you can answer.
What's an ideal wife?
Yeah. And also you can, I guess, to add on to that, like, what is the role of a wife in addition to that?
Okay, so I think, well, the wife would be to well, you have, okay, husband and wife, you have a family, even if it's the two of you, okay? But if you have children, then role of a wife is to me to support her husband, as the role of the husband is to support the wife, you know. Here in the West now, okay, in this day and age, we don't really have traditional roles anymore, because you have, I know when we're both retired, but we had 2 income families, and so I wasn't stay-at-home mother, and as a matter of fact, when I did retire, I had this whole plan that I wanted to, I'm a retired dentist, and I had this whole plan that when we moved to Alachua, that I was just going to, I've always liked to cook and everything, so I wanted to open up this prasadam business and everything. I mean, I just had it from A to Z, and I presented my plan to Srila Gurudev, and he said, no. He says, no, I want you to work your profession and help your husband, free him up so that he can travel and preach. So it went to like, just a screeching halt, you know. And then Madhav Maharaj tried to explain to him that, I had to get my license, my Florida license, and I hadn't done that in 30 years and whatever. But I ended up being able to get a job in a prison that accepted my Maryland license. And it was just easy. It's almost like Srila Gurudev just put everything into place. So I was able to do that. He was able to retire as a police officer and actually travel and preach, So this is like just obeying Srila Gurudev's instructions. I don't know. Here in the West, we just don't have traditional roles. You have, men helping their wives raise children. You have, women going out to work. I think the role of a wife is to love her husband and support him and to make him happy, make him smile. And that's what I try to do.
It's working.
That's sweet.
There's always a smile on Mukunda Prabhu's face.
Any other didis? Vasbihari Didi, Arti Didi, Sudevi Didi? Thank you, Mohini Didi.
Didi, I can talk for myself as when I was getting married, and during the course of time, my first 5 years, there were a few occasions, when I approached Gurudev with a few questions, a few concerns. But Gurudev always instructed me to support my husband no matter what. He said my duty was to support him in preaching, in whatever he does, and to create a very loving environment at home, nurture the kids very nicely, make good prasadam, and be very supportive to his ideas, and always be very encouraging. So Gurudev, these were the personal instructions that Gurudev gave me, during my marriage, during the course of, first few years when I had some concerns and questions when I used to talk to him. I struggled with my bhajan and when I had Madhav, I could not chant my rounds. Gurudev again said, talk to Vishnu, and you both should support each other, make a plan. And, he always wanted us to work as a team and always wanted me to follow him, not him following me. This is what I understood. So I was always under Vishnu Prabhu's guidelines, and that really helped me. I'm very thankful to Vishala Gurudev to give me those guidelines during the course of initial married life. But these were the few instructions that he always told me: to nurture the family with love and affection, to cook with a lot of love, offer the bhoga with a lot of love, and feed your family. So, it creates a very loving environment in the family.
And she certainly took that to heart, because she's an amazing cook. I don't know how many of you have eaten her cooking, but we are very spoiled. People come to our home and they say, do you eat such prasad, delicious prasad every day? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sweet.
for me, I can say that when we were married, Srila Gurudev, after we didn't have like a huge yagya, we had a ghee lamp for our fire. It's a very long story. We were married in front of Seva Kunja. And so we did our circumambulation of Thakurji, of the Seva Kunj paintings. And then Gurudev afterwards, he said, so first he said the D word isn't in your dictionary. And I was like, what's the D word? And then he had to tell me it's divorce. And okay. So then he said, but if you want to get divorced, first you have to go to everyone who has witnessed your wedding here and gain their permission. Then you have to go to all of the senior Vaishnavas and get their permission. Then you have to come in front of Thakurji, in front of Seva Kunja, and get Radha and Krishna's permission. And at very last, you come to me, and the answer is no. And then very soon after, he said, just like Sita and Ram, even if one were to leave, there will never be another. This is it in your life. And he said to me privately, even in your dreams, there should be no one else. And I was like, oh, Gurudev, even my dreams? But then what it made me do is that I realized, like Gurudev, we once had a huge fight. We didn't tell anyone, but that morning we went to see Gurudev pretending we were all happy and married, happy couple. And Gurudev just looked at me and said, you should not yell at him, or he will cry. And I was like, oh. So what this taught me was that this is it. This is my lot in life. And I want to be a happy person. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to be regretful. So my duty to myself and to my husband is to create an atmosphere where I'm happy, where he's happy, where there is a give and take situation, where a lot of times one of us has to compromise. Generally, it's me. And then after I do the compromising, and after a situation calms down and everything is good, then we have discussion. We discuss with each other. We have a lot of communication. So there has to be an understanding that this is it in my life. And the one thing that I've really made like a principle in my marriage is that, like Didi said before, this is your family. And so I never go outside my marriage to talk about my problems. If I have a problem with my husband, or I'm feeling unhappy, or something is wrong, he has to be the one that I go to. I don't go to my mom. I don't go to my friends who will say, oh, he doesn't deserve you. You could do better, or he's not good enough. You know, you can find someone else. There's so many things. I did that before, and I realized this is not conducive. So learning these things, first of all, we want to have a very sweet, kind, and affectionate married life. And the other thing was that we heard that Gurudev said, after seeing many divorce, he said, I want to have just one married couple that doesn't divorce. And this was before we were given any seva. And we just looked at each other and we were like, let's be those people. Let's make our marriage our service to Gurudev, that we will at least be an example of marriage. Maybe we can't do anything else, but let's just stick it out. Let's serve Gurudev like this. So our marriage, if we want to do it as also a service to Gurudev. That was our initial, let's do it. Let's be that couple. So for me, that's ideal. To be an ideal wife means, yes, there has to be a compromise. And generally, forgive me, anyone, but a male ego is very different from a female ego generally. And I find that instead of inflaming the situation, and instead of making it so that we're both burning red, one of us has to take the humble position, eat a little humble pie for a little while. And then when the situation has come, you know, to a nice place, then just communicate. But there always has to be someone that is willing to compromise, to say, okay, I'm not going to fight. I know this is going nowhere. I'm going to take that position. And then later on, and he always realizes, oh, I know that, you know, I was in the wrong, and you behaved like this. Thank you.
When I'm wrong. One time we had a very, very bad fight, and it was just terrible. And we knew that there was no way out, because we had vowed to Gurudev, and we had vowed to all of the Vaishnavas, and we had vowed in front of Thakurji and in front of the fire. And so we didn't have a choice to leave. And so we had to communicate with each other. Well, do you want to leave me?
This is when we were traveling. So we were in another person's house having a whisper fight.
Whisper fight, yes.
We have to have whisper fights in other devotees' houses. And he was lying on the floor. I was lying on the bed. We were just furious with each other.
And the question came, well, do you want to leave me? And we were like, no. And I said, do you want to leave me? And she said, no, that wasn't an option. It wasn't an option on our table. So then the question came, well, do you want to be miserable forever, or do you want to be happy? And so we had to come to the conclusion that we didn't want to be miserable. So then we had to choose to figure out a way to get along, and that we were going to work together to continue our seva in an amicable, peaceful, friendly way, rather than in a aggressive way. And that made a huge difference for us.
I
Wow.
just have an incident to share. Like you said, that they had an argument. We also went through, ups and downs. So just I think when I got married just 3 months back, Gurudev was in Badger and we had an argument and he just called Gurudev and he told him what happened and how I was not listening to him or whatever. I don't know. So Gurudev said, okay, let me talk to Aarti. And my heart was beating so fast. I could not hold the phone. And he said, talk to Gurudev. And I'm like, oh my God, what should I say to Srila Gurudev? What will he think about me? It's just 3 months. It's so early. And he would, and definitely Gurudev knew him more than me. So he would take his side. But Gurudev, I talked to Gurudev. I said, Hari Bol Gurudev, Dhanvat Pranam. And very sweetly, Gurudev says, Beti, how are you? How's your visit in US going? Because I moved to India from India. So I was like, Gurudev, everything is okay. He said, in Hindi, he said that your husband just called me and he narrated me a story. Now, I don't know who is right and who is wrong, but I know you are my daughter and you will always listen to me. And Didi, he said it in Hindi. He said, "Tum meri beti ho, aur tum meri baat sunogi." And I said, "Ji Gurudev." He said, "Tum Sita ban jao." Jis tarah, the way Sita Mata never questioned Ram. Do not question him. If you're my daughter. And those words I never forgot. We went through a lot of, the journey is not easy. We all know it. But those words always echoed in my ears, that never question him, follow him. And the way Gurudev said, you're my daughter, tum meri beti ho, tum meri baat sunogi, tum Sita jaisi ban jao. जिस प्रकार सीता माता ने कभी भगवान राम से कुछ नहीं बोला, कुछ नहीं पूछा, उनका कहना माना, तुम भी विष्णु का कहना माना. Entry door. So I said, ठीक है Gurudev. He didn't take my side or his side. He could have said Vishnu is right, follow him, but he didn't say that. But whatsoever the case was, he wanted me to follow Vishnu Prabhu. So that was amazing.
Sorry, and just to add to that, just one thing, and I think she's taken that to her heart. And as Sudevi Didi was saying, one of the important roles of a wife, I think, in a marriage is just because of the nature. And the more women are women-like, they have this big role of being the one who takes the brunt, right? They are in general more calm and more peaceful, more compassionate, right? And Gurudev always said the heart of a woman is so much more loving and full of compassion. Men are crazy. So it's the woman in the family that brings the composure and calmness and serenity in the family. And I can say that's true for us because, we as men sometimes don't think, and we say things, but she always listens with composure, and that helps, calm down everything. So that, I think, is a great role of a wife in a family, is to keep that serenity and composure.
We had a similar situation. I remember when we first were married, my wife had a big compromise because she moved to my home. She owned her own home, but and her practice was near her home, but she sacrificed to move all the way down, maybe an hour away, to move to my home. And I remember the first time we had a major disagreement. I used to sleep in the room downstairs just because our schedules were so different in terms of when I had to go to work and when she had to go. And I remember after the argument, after some time, because I'm just not confrontational. So I remember mentioning to her, well, would you like to go back to Baltimore? And we just, call it. And she came down later and she sat and said that, listen, I'm apologizing, but not so much about right and wrong, but because you're Gurudev's disciple and because you're a devotee, that I am apologizing because I should never be in a position where there's a possibility I've offended a devotee and a disciple of Gurudev. And my heart just like completely melted because I've said, I should be thinking like that also. So she says, listen, we can get through anything, but one thing you should never ever mention to me again is that you should go or we should break up. And so we took a vow on that day that never, no matter what happened, that would never come up again, that we should somehow, split or anything like that. So
we would have disagreements, but that would never, the issue of leaving each other, that would never
come up.
enter the situation at all. And I remember that argument, and I don't even remember what it was about. It was something, it always escalates, But I just remember thinking the most hellish thoughts. I was sitting on my bed, just thinking, just hellish thoughts. And then it's like my heart just opened, and I'm like, how do you think something like this about someone who is so dear to Srila Gurudev, so dear to Krishna, who worships, Thakurji so nicely. And I said, I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to apologize, and even if he doesn't accept it, I'm just going to do that. We cried on each other's shoulders. It was such a bushy scene. But when we got married, the devotee who married us told me, because I know men and women are different, she told me, make your husband's ego your best friend.
Oh,
Interesting.
nice.
I rub his little head and I can get whatever. He agrees. He's like, oh, he's a pudding heart,
A very big thing too is that at the first Houston festival, actually, I can't even remember, it was so far back, that very first Houston festival, Gurudev asked us to take Vanapras because we weren't having children anymore. And so, we agreed because we both, even from ISKCON days, we were pretty strict as devotees. And when Gurudev said you should just kind of make it official, if you're not having children more, take Vanapras, and Mukunda, you should try to preach more, so forth. And I asked Gurudev then about sannyas. He said, no need to think about it. Don't worry about it. If you'll follow what I'm saying, this is good sannyas for you. If you have a good wife, she'll support you. You can travel and preach and so forth. And I always thought, if I did not have a wife of the quality I have, how difficult that may have been. So one of the most important things is somebody who will support giving you the strength to keep the purity, to follow these things. That's an amazing thing. I mean, of course, I think we have the panel of some of the best cooks in the world, because I know I've personally taken prasadam in Mahabodhi's house. And I also, in Houston, I also had prasadam. So, and my wife also is an amazing cook. I'm going to come to Vrindavan just to get Sudevi and Cherry Mohan.
It's good.
But, and obviously, I've had no dearth of suffering from prasadam lacking or anything. So I think we have the panel of some of the best cooks in the world. So my wife also is an amazing cook, but that strength to support keeping that vow that Gurudev asked, that one is one of the most amazing things to me. Because all of us, growing and we're living in an environment that's so full of things, bad things like that, to help keep the strength of that vow for the purity of preaching, I'm always indebted to her that she has that kind of fortitude.
So
the first instruction Gurudev gave me about Sudevi, she wasn't present. Gurudev came to Seattle and he had already initiated her. And he told me, you should be strong like your wife. And then another time he told me, you should follow your wife. And then we were in the PG airport and she's crying at his feet like, don't leave me here. And he said, I will take you to Goloka Vrindavan with me, but you must hold my finger and never let go. And he looked at her very heavily and said, never let go. Hare Krishna. And then I said, what about me, Gurudev? And he said, you have to hold her little finger.
Wow.
So Gurudev saw a certain kind of conviction and a certain kind of dedication in her that he wanted me to follow. And so I see I see her as Gurudev's daughter, and the conviction that she has in him and his teachings and the path of bhakti as my protection. And she's very strong with that. And if she wasn't present there, I don't know where my mind would go. She protects me from myself.
Exactly. Yes.
So from our perspective, my wife's being quiet, but I want to say some things so that people can understand a little bit. There's a big.
Really made me cry.
Yeah, after hearing Archie, she was crying.
So beautiful. Yes, so beautiful.
So the difference is this: I put my wife, my situation is when we were married, 42 years. But the main basic is this: I've been in a constant revolution and a battle, and my wife has been there. In other words, we got married. I got thrown in prison in Bombay. We had, we went through a murder trial. We had to go over to Calcutta. The whole place was blowing up over there. We got back to New York. In New York, we opposed the whole thing about selling the temples and Adi Keshava and all those things went there, only to get to New Vrindavan and then go through Kirtanananda's issue. And then when we went to Florida, we stood up and spoke against the nonsense that was going there. We had to be leaving out of the temple. My wife has been in a constant battle. If she's had to support, she's had to go through all these different trials and tribulations because her husband's like a revolutionary. Okay. And so in spite of all the different, issues where most women hadn't had to go through that, we've also, I've had to leave different times for jobs and for a year or 2 years or something like that. She had to maintain everything at the house by herself. And then, so we're always coming and going. So my wife's fortitude is, having to put up with a husband who's challenging the system quo. And even now, with all this crazy COVID and all these different things like that, we're taking the position this is nonsense. And the leaders that are throwing people to die are nonsense. And we speak up about it. Gurudev told me to preach boldly. Prabhupada told me to preach boldly. But what does that mean for a wife? It means like going through so much suffering and trials and tribulations, having to move, having to support stuff, having to sometimes take things on your own while your husband's battling some battle that you wonder, why don't you just become like any other devotee and just be quiet, let things go? So,
my problem is, I feel so, Aarti Didi made me cry because it's so fortunate to see that you all had such lovely association with your Gurudev, which I never had. And that's an unfortunate situation. It's a long story. I had no one to go to, no one to give me instructions besides him. So he's all that I have. I didn't have, I didn't have a chance to call a guru and, get instructions. And that's the sad part. But I think the most important thing is if you have one goal, our goal is to try to get out of this material world and serve Krishna with all our heart. And then I have a kid. Kid is most importantly, make sure that he is, on the right path. That's our duty as parents, to make sure that the kid we had is Krishna conscious. Otherwise, we are big fault. That's how I look at it. But aside from that, I just appreciate. I'm so overwhelmed and so happy to see how nice you all had such lovely association with Srila Gurudev, and you all had personal instructions. It's just very nice. I was unfortunate. It's a long story. I was fortunate towards the end. But
I definitely can agree with you, Didi, that just hearing all of these such incredible instructions by Srila Gurudev, especially on his centennial year, it also brought me to tears as well. So I'm so incredibly grateful to hear all of these instructions. I have to skip through a couple questions just because of timing. One question I did want to ask about what is ideal husband, but I think that was also kind of answered and in the course of things. So if anyone wants to quickly chime in on that, I'm more than happy to hear that. But one question I wanted to ask was, what works well in your relationship that you would contribute to your success for having been married for this many years? Do you have any personal words of advice for, say, like youngsters like myself who have a desire to enter into Grihastha ashram, maybe perhaps have not found the right person yet, but want to be able to serve Srila Gurudev within this ashram?
For me personally, I'll say one thing. If you have to get married, just find somebody who has a strong faith in Guru and service to Radha Krishna. Otherwise, you're not. For me, my husband is my strength because I look at him for everything, not just moral or spiritual. He's my everything. And the devotion he has for Radha Krishna, I'll just cry because he has so much devotion, and that gives me a strength to continue and to push and to have that, Anyway, find somebody who will be more Krishna conscious than yourself.
Thank you, Didi.
And I think one thing here I wanted to say too, I think in this assembly that Anuradha that you gathered, I think we have a whole lot of really good cooks, because I used to think people were coming to visit some of my classes and to our programs, but I came to realize that they're actually coming from my wife's prashad. So Mukunda can verify.
I hate cooking. I hate cooking.
Wow.
Just one quick story. Mahabodhi Prabhu, you were still in Chicago, but Didi had a program, and I came with Sudadwaiti Maharaj at that time and someone else, and it was Ekadasi, and we had an Ekadasi feast. After all the lectures and everything, the entire ride back, we talked about the feast, and in the Harikatha we spoke. We thought, we didn't even reminisce on the Harikatha that we were speaking, but we all talked about the nature of the feast.
Yes, thank you so much. So I wanted to then ask, what is one thing that you've learned from your spouse which you're grateful for? And anyone can say.
I learned from you.
Spirituality for me. The devotion for me, my husband's devotion to Radha Krishna and Prabhupada. No matter what I've been through and no matter what he's gone through, he's never, ever once, for 42 years, I've never, ever seen my husband ever miss a round. Never. Or get up and do his prayers. Never. And that's just so important. I missed my round, but never my husband, no matter what. I'd see him fall asleep trying to finish his rounds. And that's for me, that devotion to Krishna and this and to Guru, his vow that he's taken. It keeps me.
Thank you, Didi. Mukunda Prabhu and Moini Didi?
Yeah, I think friendship is one big thing that we've learned. I mean, we are literally best friends. And I think part of that has come from obviously a sort of natural compatibility probably, but also from the fact that we sort of, our center, our mutual center is service to Srila Gurudev and to Krishna, but it translates into pragmatic things. Like we travel to preach together. And I usually travel 3 times a year. It'll be twice with my wife and once with just the men. And I mean, whenever we travel together, I mean, we've gone all the way cross country 2 or 3 times for traveling and preaching. And I am coming to Houston, Vishnu Prabhu, because I know I missed it a couple of times. In fact, we were coming and it flooded once when we tried to come. So
we're waiting for you to come here too, Mukunda.
I'm definitely also coming up with, I made that promise. But yeah, I mean, so our friendship is like very, very deep. And Rupa Goswami's mentioned that Vaishnav Maitri, unlike just your material friendships and everything, it carries the quality, the Lakshana of Priti. Because the 6 things he gave is that one is that your Vaishnav Maitri, like revealing in confidence, inquiring confidentially, sharing and honoring prasad together, giving and receiving gifts. So those things happen organically and naturally in our association. And that we're serving Srila Gurudev together. And we used to get up in the morning and watch Kishore Mohan and Sudevi. We would go on virtual parikram with them. And so we're thinking,
I still watch you guys every morning.
So
you probably don't recognize my name, but I'm Marcia Ackridge.
yes.
Yeah, I recognize.
So, you know, our friendship also is one of the biggest lessons I learned, that even in Bhakti, you certainly mutual devotion to Radha and Krishna and Gurudev is important, but also there has to be some friendship has to be there in order for things to really, really, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing I learned.
So yeah, plus trust, you know, learning what real trust is. I mean, I completely trust him with everything. I trust that he will not hurt me, you know, and that he will try his best to protect me. And it's the same with him, you know. We've been in a couple situations where, you know, I would not even, should I tell the situation? No, I'm not gonna tell that. But never in my mind did I ever distrust my husband, ever, you know. And I would think, you know, there's got to be an explanation for this. It's escaping me, but never will I ever, you know, never had it ever occurred, you know, that my husband did anything mistrustful, you know.
I'll tell quickly.
All right.
My brother, my elder brother, named his first son after me.
One.
No,
that was funny too. But...
Named his first son after me. So his wife called because they were visiting DC. I had never told my wife, and she mentioned, "Oh, I'll be visiting, and little Eric is coming with me." My secular name is Eric. So I was at work, and my wife was trying to figure out little Eric and some female's voice. He never told me about any little Eric or anything like that. So it wasn't until she figured out that this was my brother's former wife and her son, whom he had named after me. That's what it was.
But I still didn't.
She had no doubts. Yeah.
Didn't mistrust you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to say that the most important quality that Sudevi has, that I've learned from and that I continue to learn from, is her passionate to the point of extreme faith and conviction in the teachings of Srila Gurudev, her conviction in our Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Varga. It's so infectious and contagious, and really that's the foundation of our relationship, is based on our adherence to our Guru Varga's teachings and conceptions. It is the basic foundation of that. But just seeing and witnessing how much conviction she has in Srila Gurudev, what kind of dedication she has, that for me is the best thing that I've been able to see and learn from her.
I would say that one of the things that has helped me grow personally, that I've learned from Kishore Mohan Prabhu, is kindness and understanding. He's very, very kind. Even if someone is mean to him, like really mean, he honestly just thinks they're having a bad day, you know, and it's taught me so much at how to be accepting of others, how to be kind to others, how to understand that others might be having difficulty, whatever it might be. Even with me, he has so much kindness and understanding. And, you know, we're kind of opposite. I think it was, who was it? Vishnu Prabhu was saying how a man, you know, they're more like strong and passionate, and a woman has we're opposite. I'm very passionate. I'm kind of wild and I want to throw dishes or something. I'm opposite. And he's very gentle and kind. If we have a fight, he just is like, give me 10 minutes, and he goes to sleep, and I'm ready there with a not a hammer, like something to hit him with, you know. I'm just, we're so opposite. But I see that he's always kind and understanding. Even when we have issues, he's always understanding of my side, and he always has so much like a kindness toward me and toward others. And that's the other thing. It's not just to his own person, but it's to everyone. He always feels that no matter what it is, oh, they must be having a hard time. He tries to kind of make up, because not everyone is mean, you know? So I feel that that's been such a growth for me in my life, because I'm the first to say, oh, that person's horrible. And he's like, no, they're just having a hard time. Give them a break. So kindness.
Very sweet. Thank you. And then
So,
okay, Prabhuji, I wanted to just have Vishnu Prabhu and Arti Didi share, and then if possible, then I can have you share right after.
So the quality
No
that
problem.
we grow and admire him in his life is his discipline and his spiritual life. I was always taken back by everything that he does, and still he says, I haven't done enough. I haven't done this. I haven't read books. We're not preaching enough. Always completing his duties and, you know, maintaining family, taking care of children, giving time to children, and again, doing his rounds, never missing anything, and preaching one-on-one, taking classes online or otherwise, temple services. But then I see him, he's always not very happy with what he's doing. He wants to do more. So sometimes it's so much to learn from him. And also sometimes when I was not able to do my rounds, when I had small children, and I would always complain, I have to finish my rounds, I have to do this, you know, I haven't read. He would always say, don't cook 2 times, just cook 1 time. I can have, you know, whatever it was made in the morning, but make sure you finish your rounds. Always encouraging in my bhajan, not demanding at all. He's not at all demanding at all. So I used to see how much love and affection and understanding he gave around the house to everybody, even to the children. He would do everything, but he would keep his spiritual life, you know, on top priority. So I learned that we can do everything, balancing, and time management came, you know, very much when we saw him. Everything he did with time. He started on time, he finished his day on time, and we just, me and my kids, we just talk about it. So much to learn from Dad, Mom. He does everything, but you know, he's on time everywhere. He has no excuse that he was not able to do anything. So definitely I was very encouraged seeing him being very disciplined in his spiritual life.
I think from my perspective, see, there are things in bhakti, there is an external and there is an internal. So while I may be doing things externally in a very disciplined way, I can say that from Aarti, I've learned the actual mood, the internal mood, and the love and affection with which that she has for Shri Gurudev, the love and affection she has for Thakurji, and ready to, you know, jump up for any service. You know, sometimes at the temple here for hours, I have to serve. You know, today, for example, we're celebrating Nandutsav, and she's ready to go and cook a big feast. It's just that bhav, which I sometimes wonder that even though I do probably externally, maybe doing things which may seemingly more things, but that internal mood is not there. So that, you know, I see her devotion, that internal mood, which I really, I don't say to her many times, but that's what really inspires me, that I wish I could have that real mood, because just doing external is, you know, whom am I fooling? You know, it's really the internal that matters. And I must say that she has so much more of that And even if I get a little bit of it, I think that would make my bhajan more steady and successful.
Thank you so much. Mahabodhi Prabhu?
Can you say something? We're being attacked here by my cat while they're doing it. So just if you start seeing the video go down. I don't have any of the good qualities that, you know, Kishore Mahan, Mukunda, or Vishnu Prabhu has, and how they've been explained by their wives. You know, I'm still working, you know, in a large institution like Vishnu Prabhu has, but you know, and it takes up so much time away also from devotional service, having to manage, you know, 150 persons and millions of dollars. It's, you know, there's a lot of expectation. So I keep kicking myself, why am I still doing this? And, you know, my wife's qualities, coming and seeing how she dresses Radha Madhava, and sometimes, you know, tearing in eyes and over with the Radharani, and how much pleasure she gets in when we invite people over our house and they're, you know, these huge feasts. That doesn't help me lose weight, but you know, that devotion, and it also gives I'm always in a constant battle, and either with, you know, with others in my work environment, in opposing different, you know, upasampradaya in our devotional lives, or struggling to follow the orders. I had many orders that both Srila Prabhupada and Srila Guru gave to me, and trying to, you know, put those in the forefront. So I was never given instructions on marriage. Otherwise, the only thing he told me is that someday I'll have to be like the 6 Goswamis and renounce everything. And the whole room was quiet at that time. This was in Houston. And someone said, oh, you should take sannyas. He said he will take whenever he wants. So now the question for me is, my wife has actually encouraged me. I had to learn tolerance and patience, which I'm not patient. I'm not very tolerant. So a lot of these issues just, you know, and my wife will argue with me in such a way that it actually keeps me sharp, in the sense that we have a kshatriya cut, we have weapons and battle. You know, it's not like I'm listening gun anyway, whatever. We're not your normal, you know, Haribo Prabhus, Brahmanas kind of thing. We're in a constant devotional activity, readiness for practically what will happen. Sometimes I feel like I'm circling the airport waiting to get, you know, to land, and when all the problems start happening, it'll be another day at work for me. But the difference is my wife's gone through that. She's you know, I put her through a lot of personal issues to be able to, we moved away from her family, you know, to come here to West Virginia. And, you know, there's not a lot of people to associate with. We're building for a future. We're building a future, you know, for people to come, and in a temple environment where it doesn't exist right now, because she has to do something with for a second. But in this regard, you know, she's been a constant trooper like that, because it's very difficult, I think, to be Mahabodhi's wife. You know, I don't think it's one of those things where you can just comfortably say Haribo, and it's always on a field of challenge. And so, you know, I have to lend my heart and my appreciation that, you know, for 42 years we argue regularly on different topics, and it's not like, you know, either of us sometimes are going to take a compromise. This is where there's a difference of I think, from a Brahminical platform to a Kshatriya platform. My wife's also from a Kshatriya family, so to get when both are here, we, you know, it'll battle it out to the point comes with, okay, then this doesn't make any more sense, let's end it, or this is a better.
But we've never ever spoken about divorce. Never. We never fight and I'm gonna leave you, or, you know, It's just, we fight, Satya fight, not beating each other, but argumentative. And then it just, next minute we're talking like we've never ever had an argument.
So for me, this keeps me sharp, you know. Otherwise, I can't ask questions to Mukunda Prabhu or some of the other, you know, scholars in our movement, because I'm not myself. I'm not very advanced and don't have very much understanding. So, but I've been given a lot of, you know, pressure both from Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada to speak the truth, regardless of what that means to me personally, you know, or what that means if it's easy or not easy. So, you know, to that, I'm also very dedicated that, you know, if those Uppa Sampradaya things flow into our movement, it's not that we're supposed to be quiet and just be gentlemen and let them go. So that also puts strain on the women's side. When we do something like that, the whole family's, you know, is at pressure.
But our family is all into that.
But our whole family, including my son and the rest of, everyone is very much
On the same.
we're on the same platform and very strongly believe both in Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. Both my wife also, you know, who was initiated earlier in ISKCON, renounced that, took 3 times, and announced that took Srila Gurudev. And Srila Gurudev, you know, gave a lot of mercy to her, as well as to my son.
Not really. I never had any association with Srila Gurudev. Just one time.
To us.
Yeah, at Shashikala's house, we went to meet with that, you know, but the last moment I decided to get initiated, I had a very, very bad association. I was associating with some, I hate to say, but some, you know, Ritviks that had the very, you know, I just had a bad association. And then at the end, I decided I need to get away from that and just go and get initiated by Srila Gurudev. And what was nice is I've never ever had any other association with Srila Gurudev. I knew who he was. I encouraged my husband to go. And Gurudev waited for me. It took me 2 hours to drive. And he waited patiently. And when I finally went to get initiated, he gave me, you know, first and second at the same time. I couldn't talk. I didn't know what to say. I was just lost for words. I just sat down and I just cried. I had my head down and I was just crying. And Gurudev chanted and he gave me my beads, and Mukunda Maharaj kept coming and Madhav Maharaj kept saying, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" And then the only thing Srila Gurudev did was, that's all that I hold so dear to my heart. He looked at Mukunda, Madhav Maharaj and said, "Leave her. She has a good heart." That's all. And that's the only thing. And that's all the association or whatever I've had with Srila Gurudev. That was it. Nothing else. No instructions or anything. And after that, he left. I was the last one to get initiated here in the United States. And then after that, Gurudev left.
Sweet. So sweet. I thank you all so much for sharing all of that. So wonderful to hear that. I want to ask one more question, and then we will move into our rapid fire just to keep things fun. And then I'm just going to make a little announcement right now that if anyone, any of our viewers who are watching, if you have any questions for any of our lovely panelists, our amazing Grhastha devotees, then please ask those questions. You can place them in the chats and YouTube and also Facebook, and then we'll go through them at the end. So this question is in relation to conflict, because all of you have mentioned, you know, that it's natural to have conflict in any form of relationship, especially within marriage. What about correcting your spouse? So how to correct your spouse? How is this done?
I just, I'm very respectful to him. There's sometimes both of us need to be corrected. If we're not corrected, then we don't grow, you know? But I'm never disrespectful to him, never.
Yeah, I think a lot has to do with, like I said, that original disagreement we had and the sort of mutual agreement of how to manage conflict from there. So it never escalates to a point where we consider not being together or not serving together. So I think also what she told me at that time about the fact that she felt bad because she looked at me, you're a disciple of Gurudev and a devotee. So I had to think, well, yeah, I mean, that's the right perspective. She's a disciple of Gurudev and also she's a devotee. So I have to consider if it goes outside of a certain boundary, this becomes Vaishnava Aparad. So not just a matter of it's my property, my wife, and we can say anything or do anything. So in making corrections, that foundation is there that we're aspirants in Vaishnavism. So we have to be careful not to commit Vaishnava Aparad. So in making a correction, we could put all the logic, reasoning, everything on the table, and we may even come to a mutual disagreement about the outcome of something, but the mutual respect, which I think I learned greatly from her in that first encounter, is always maintained. And it served us well over the course of the years.
So, Kishore Mohan Prabhu, Sridevi Didi.
When it comes to correction, I would say I choose my battles. That, you know, I like to make sure that if there's something that needs to be said, that, you know, really it's something that will be conducive, whether it's to our seva or to our relationship. It has to be conducive. If it's little things, you know, oh, can you do something this way? And he doesn't. I don't get on his case. At least he tries to do something. So, I mean, I'm being vague, but the point is that I think that for us, well, for me personally, I have to make sure that if I feel that he needs correction, which I rarely do, I think that for us, we're trying to do everything as a service. And it's even within our relationship, we're very careful. One thing that we never do is judge each other spiritually. Like if he's doing well spiritually and I'm lagging a little bit, he might encourage me, but he never judges. He never, we never get in each other's spiritual life. What's between me and my Gurudev is different
than what's between
him and his Gurudev. And so we never cross certain boundaries. We might try to help each other, inspire each other, but because we don't cross certain boundaries, we don't point fingers at each other or try to put someone down. We don't try to do that to each other. So generally, when we're maybe giving some kind of a critique on each other, generally it's for seva. Otherwise, you know, this is the first time that we've ever actually had a griha. You know, we've always been for 20 years almost continually traveling and preaching on the order of Gurudev. We haven't actually had a home until really lockdown. It's the first time we've actually been together in 20 some odd years where we're actually just, you know, living, making a bed, sweeping a floor, doing all these things. So it's not something that we really fight about or anything. I think it's generally for seva, and we're very careful with each other when it comes to service.
I find correction, generally the tendency or the need to correct comes if I feel that maybe another devotee is being offended. And some of our biggest disagreements would be on that. I'd be like, I think that what you're doing or what you've done is offensive, and I can't tolerate that. And she also takes that role with me. So that's when a correction would come. But when it comes to those particular things, we start listening, because if it could be aparad, then we want to be very careful. So how to approach correction? it's
Well,
different
generally,
every time.
if we actually put Gurudev, you know, this is for our seva, and I need to tell you this. And then we sit down and we're like, okay, this is serious. And then we listen. Otherwise, we're new at the Griha part of marriage. So we don't have much.
The first 3 years of our marriage, we didn't live together for 2 of those years. And then right after that, Gurudev sent us traveling the world and preaching. So basically, this is the first time in 27 years that we've actually been able to live together. And we seem to like each other a lot.
We're
Yeah.
friends.
We're
We're
good
good
friends.
friends. We're best friends.
Good. Vishnu Prabhu and Aarti Didi?
So when it comes to correction, I think we have so many things to deal with when kids also come in, you know, they're like, I'm observing few things, but the baseline that I would say is that works the best, and we have tried a couple of things, is like love and respect. I have to be very respectful,
Yeah.
and I have to see when it is conducive to talk, when he's, you know, like when is the right time to talk to him. I just can't storm in and say anything anytime. So I think that works best.
I think when you're talking about in a time of a conflict, how to correct the spouse, I think we all have a tendency then when there is a conflict, we tend to think that I am right and the other person is wrong, and we're trying to correct the other person. And that's when it creates more conflict, right? So I think, as she said, and she's very good at it, that she typically would not try to get into an argument at that time, but later on try to, you know, when everything is calm, discuss it. But I've been reflecting more and more on this, that, you know, this is a place where we have to really implement what we hear. You know, so we have to, more than trying to correct the other person, try to see where was I wrong in this conflict, and try to correct yourself. And that's true not just in the relationship between husband and wife, but in any conflict. So I've been trying to meditate. You know, I would not say it's, you know, it's easy, because we have this natural tendency to see the fault in the other person. But the more we're trying to see the fault within ourselves, and typically that's the case, you know, we are our greatest, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we are our greatest enemy and our greatest friend. And 99.99999%, I would say almost 100%, the problem is us, not the other person. And you know, in a conflict, I think Grhastha Didi was saying, I just wanted to add this, that you have to still be, instead of trying to correct, you know, over a period of time, you learn to adjust. And I think that's the beauty of the Grhastha ashram. If you try to just resolve between yourself, and I think Sudevi Didi had mentioned earlier, then instead of dragging other people into the conflict, which is the worst thing one can do, either your parents or friends or anyone. And in our families, we were brought up like that. You know, we were brought up with Indian parents, and they were from day one very particular, both her parents and my parents, that never call us for any conflict that you have. It's your responsibility. And I've seen so many marriages break when the parents get involved in those marriages. So to learn to resolve the conflict among yourself, and then forget and forgive. You know, I'll just tell a funny story. It's I saw that with my grandparents, and we were kids, and sometimes they would fight, and we were just thinking, this is it. You know, they're just going to separate. And so I'm in their room, they're fighting like anything, and I go out and come back in 5 minutes. They're the best of the friends. You know, they're just like as if nothing happened. And to some extent, we have, you know, come to the same level. Sometimes there's certainly an argument, and it's true that even the next day I ask her, do you remember why did we fight? She has absolutely no remembrance, or not why. We actually literally can't even remember why did we fight the last day. So I think that's, you know, if we can somehow, you know, intentionally or naturally have that in our lives, to forget and forgive and just move forward, that just keeps you together, just not in the between husband and wife, but even among the devotee relationships. Just forget, forgive, and move forward. Yeah.
I was just joking with him sometime that I have to maintain a diary, that what all happened that we have to talk about, because we just forget the next day.
Wow. Sweet.
I would sometimes write down about what our fight was about because I wanted to prove in the future. Really, I would write it down. This happened, this happened, this happened. And the next time we're going to fight, I'm going to show you and prove it. And then I would look at it and think, no, we have to reset every time. I would crumple it up and throw it away because it's just not worth it.
I told you he's kind.
But I have written it down before.
Mabadi Prabhuji and Rasbihari Didi?
Well, personally, I've never been able to correct him. 42 years, I've never been able to correct him. Nothing. Well, I don't correct. I never. You can't. And there's actually when I sit down, I get angry very easily, and it's about petty things, and I don't pay attention to that. I don't bother with that anymore. And as far as correction comes, what am I going to correct him? He spiritually is like my guru. He's my guru. I can't correct him on anything. You know? And our arguments are little petty things we don't pay attention to. Our goal is Krishna, and we just focus on that. And he lets it go. I am the one that argues, not him. I'm the one that instigates and starts everything. Honestly, I'll tell you the truth. Prabhu never does. You know, he'll tell you too. He never does.
I see him nodding his head.
It's true. And it's just petty thing. I don't want to discuss on that. I have never been able to correct. How am I going to correct my guru?
Although every day I get corrected at least on several things.
Not correction, but bickering.
Bickering at me. And so I'm going like, okay, whatever.
And that's just me.
But
the next minute we're talking. We never had an argument where we never it lasts for days. It's 42 years. It never ever went for that. We'll argue and it'll be like, oh my God. And then 10 minutes later we're talking and I'm making food and I'm it's just
and then just
something
with
that goes wrong with it.
Just with the amazing prasad, then I'm sure that his heart melts.
Yeah, but his prasad is beside the point. It's just like Prabhu never takes, even if I argue, or sometimes I'll just say something, and he'll just like, oh, why don't you just take your mouth to the dry cleaners? He just doesn't bother. It doesn't bother him. Take your, just stop using language like that, And it's just, he doesn't take it seriously. And sometimes I get angry why he's not taking my argument serious. But it's just me. Prabhu never, I can't correct him. Prabhu never, 40, you'll see when it goes so many years.
I think the reason she can't correct me is because I probably don't accept correction. So I can take it as my fault,
Prabhu never gets angry. I am the one that starts the fights, honestly, for everything. I'm the one that.
It keeps me sharp for my other fights.
No, but aside from that, it doesn't go for a long time. I'll argue, I'll blow up in like 10 minutes and that's it.
Well, thank you all.
So that's the difference between the natures of people. If you're fiery and passionate, you're going to have fiery and passionate arguments, but then just as quickly you can, they're not serious. It's like, on subject areas that may be material, it's kind of like, seriously, so it's not worth battling or discussing about where, and for correcting, a lot of times I just try to give her the philosophical understanding. It's off. And she reads, she's always reading and always listening. And so, when I listen to her preach to others, it's really good. And sometimes she'll come to me for questions. So I'll assist like that. So I'm always encouraging her. When she goes out into meeting all the local people, she's much more, people always come and ask her questions and very affable. And so, we get many of the local people wherever we're at will come and want to participate and want to hear because she presents things in ways that, they can really appreciate. So I just try to keep her moving kind of in the right direction And from her, she's constantly correcting me for some whatever little fault I may have or a large fault.
Because he left the pillow on the bed table. It's not anything spiritual. I can't correct him and I don't argue about anything spiritual with him. I can't. It's just material stupid things. And that I realized after so many years, I just let it go.
Because I don't listen. So that's a bad quality for me. Whatever.
That's it. And I've learned, and you know, I've always stayed with only men. My brother-in-law stayed with me for like 14 years. Then I have my son, and then him. I never had women, so I just learned that this is how the men are. They're different from us, and I can't, you know, I'll just yep, but that's just petty. It's just silly, and I understand it. And
yes, thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. We have only just a few minutes left, so I wanted you to just grab your pen and paper. You're going to have, I'll explain very quickly what this is. So I'm just going to ask you kind of some rapid fire questions. You're going to, you know, for example, one of the first questions is, what is your spouse's favorite verse or most quoted verse? So you're going to write that down about the other person. So like in the case of like Mukunda Prabhuji, you're going to write about Mohini Didi, about Mukunda Prabhu. And then I'm going to time you. So you're only going to have 20 seconds. I said in the email 30, but I'm lessening the time. So 20 seconds, and then you can show the camera and we'll see if you have it correct. All right, so let me grab the timer.
Do we have to write the whole verse?
Oh, no, you don't.
Not the whole verse.
Yeah,
Just
you
the
don't.
first word or the first two words.
Okay, this is mine.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right.
All right, ready?
Who shows first?
Once we start, so I'll do the 20 seconds starting now, and then I'll have you guys mention. I'm assuming that some of you guys already know. All right, 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's do Prabhuji's. You show the verse first.
Show your thing.
Oh, Prabhuji's.
Prabhuji's, yes.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if you can
Wait.
see my,
Oh, that's supposed to do it.
I can't
So
tell
I'm
you.
seeing, yes, so Kishore Mohan said, Anya Abhilasita Sunyam. Mukunda Prabhuji, I can't really see yours.
It's Vacho Vegam.
Vacho Vegam, okay. And then
Manmana,
okay. And
The
then
Maha Mantra.
Mahamantra, okay. So for the spouses, is that correct? Yay or nay?
No.
It's correct. Okay. All right. So now, Didis, you will show.
Okay, I don't know the whole verse.
Thomas and
Nata
Lucia.
Pisani Jane.
Okay.
It says Anadi.
Anadi, okay. And then Rasbihari Didi, it's a little hard to see.
Bhagavad Gita 10:10.
Ah, yes, they show even. Yes, I would have figured that one. Okay, so for Sudevi Didi, what is the correct verse?
Well, you know what? We've never talked about our favorite verses because there's too many. So I gave my favorite verse.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, I guess I didn't get her favorite verse right.
That one.
Oh, very sweet. Okay. All right. So next one, you have 20 seconds.
My
Actually,
favorite
not-
verse?
Was that your favorite?
Yeah, because no,
Okay,
because
so we'll do, what is your spouse's favorite bhajan? So favorite bhajan as in song, Gauranga Bolite Habe, like that. 15 seconds and starting now.
Which one are you singing?
5 seconds. 3, 1. Okay, you ready? So instead of showing the camera, I'm gonna have you guys actually show your spouses. And then I want you to just say yes or no that you have it correct.
No.
No.
Okay. So for
Mhm.
Kishori Mohan Prabhu and Sudevi Didi, what did you write? And then what is your favorite bhajan?
I wrote Gaurangera Duti Pada
Uh-huh.
and it was wrong.
My favorite bhajan is Bandhu Sange Jaditava, Ranga
Ah.
Parihas.
Okay.
And for Sudevi, I wrote Gurudev Kripa Karke.
Wrong.
And you,
No, Jeev Jayava Prabhupada.
Honestly, I don't have a favorite bhajan. I have too many.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so for Aarti Didi, Vishnu Prabhu?
Yeah, same thing. We have too many, but I wrote for her Radha Krishna Pran Mora because I know she likes to sing that. So I think is that okay?
Yeah.
And Didi?
So I know he's always singing Dekhite Dekhite Bhule Baba Kabe.
That's correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I
perfect.
normally don't sing it publicly, but that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Oh,
We discussed
wonderful.
it in advance.
That's probably not correct.
Mukunda Prabhu and Moini Didi?
I wrote, and maybe because it's partly one of my favorite bhajans, but I wrote for her because we were in the car once and we were memorizing it by heart. Was Shri Guru Charan Kamal Bhajaman. But she says that's not really her favorite. Her favorite is Ke Jave Ke.
Ah.
And his is Radhanam.
Ah, yes.
It's true.
We'll sing that tomorrow.
So that's why Prabhuji, any time that you see me, then you always request that bhajan to be sung.
That's a Ramani Shiromani. Yeah.
Ah, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
Mavadi Prabhu and Rasbihari Didi?
She likes all of Prabhupada's bhajans. I mean, we constantly hear, and even in the background here, Prabhupada's bhajans are playing 24 hours. So she hears those.
all of Prabhupada's bhajan.
And for now.
And his is Vrindavan, but he listens to all different, but Vrindavan bhajans are his favorite. And I can't say any particular one because he likes any bhajan is like always he loves it. For me, I have to have Prabhupada playing 24 hours. All the time.
Nice.
All the time.
So
Between which room you go into,
I got 20
Prabhupada's playing in the temple in Radhamadava, Srila Gurudev's playing and his stuff out of my room. Her room's so that we got 3-4 bhajans in the house all day long, all night long.
wow, sweet.
24 hours. I have to have Prabhupada 24 hours. I can't sleep otherwise.
So that even we're sitting here in front of the deities and Prabhupada's playing that goes on, it never goes off.
Sweet. Okay, so next question is, what is your spouse's favorite prasadam preparation? So you have 15 seconds. And I know Indulekha Didi, she mentioned about, what is this oldie wedding game? Thought we'd bring for this.
Indulekha Didi.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Okay.
Spouse's favorite prasadam preparation.
So that was 15 seconds. So let's see, Mavati Prabhu and Rasbihari Didi. You can go first.
Oh, everything.
Everything. A true testament.
Any prasadam for me, anything that's prasadam. I accept, and the same with him.
I can't distinguish if you've ever, those of you that ever eaten at my house, it's like a plethora of different preparations that are really, really good. So, I'm way overweight because of it. So
Any prasadam is done.
Mukunda Prabhuji and Moini Didi?
Yeah, that is a difficult one because my wife cooks and she cooks like such huge variety. I mean, it could be everything from Italian type cooking to Oriental cooking to everything. But I put for her because sometimes just, if we're doing for the offering, we'll do rice and dal. So she likes rice and dal if I cook rice and dal. So I'm saying that may be one of her favorites.
I do. I love his rice and dal.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
For him, I think it's apple cobbler.
Yeah, the whole Thanksgiving meal. So I'd have to send you a picture of it to get the idea.
Nice. And then Vishnu Prabhu and Aarti Didi?
I know he likes the real Punjabi food, and I think he likes chole, and he likes curry a lot.
Yeah, I would say, I know she's saying, but it's difficult for me to say what's my favorite, because just like Mahabodhi Prabhu and Mukunda Prabhu, everything she cooks is so delicious that I've gotten into the habit. The moment she serves food on the table, without taking the first bite, I tell her it's delicious, because that's the way it comes out to me. But I know her favorite is torai. I don't know what you say in English.
Torai.
Green vegetables and tori, because
I just got the roy yesterday.
when even Madhav was the first one, our Madhav was born, for 21 days, she literally just ate torai, every day. So she just says she.
Wow.
That was before.
And yesterday I just bought the roy.
Okay. So we have to come down to your place to eat it.
And then Kishori Mohan Prabhu?
More than welcome.
I think Sudevi's favorite is spaghetti with tomato sauce.
Yes.
Is good.
Okay.
Nice.
And I put enchilada or lasagna, they're equal in his estimation.
It's difficult
Wow.
depending on which one she makes. I can't decide which one is my favorite, but yeah, she's right.
Wonderful.
Oh, nice.
So
But
very
really,
last
it's everything she cooks
He
anytime.
has to say that because everyone else said that.
So very, very last question. And then there's one question, live question. So very last question is, what is your spouse's favorite book of our acharyas? So 15 seconds starting now. And if you notice, it's not one of the questions I gave to you earlier. So 3 seconds, 2, 1. And that is your time. Okay, so let's start backwards. Let's do Kishori Mohan Prabhu and Sudevi Didi.
That lecture of Srila Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Maharaj, known as Success of Faith in Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Part 2.
Is it correct?
Yes.
Ah, nice. And then Didi?
For him, I would have to say, it's like the lasagna enchilada. I would say Secret Truths of the Bhagavatam and Prabandhavali, I think.
Pinnacle.
Oh, Pinnacle, sorry. Yeah. Those are the two I would choose.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Pinnacle of Devotion is my favorite.
Sorry,
And
but I
Secret
said
Truths of the
Prabandhavali,
Bhagavatam.
but I was,
You meant that one?
yeah, but anyway, they're equal. For
Yeah, both of those.
Nice. And then Mahabodhi Prabhu and Rasbihari Didi?
I don't have any favorite. I read all the books for me is special. All of Prabhupada's, all of Sri Gurudev.
We have a library here.
Yeah. So they're all special to me.
And mine.
Yours, tell them the name.
Rasa Panchadai, the
Ah,
10th Canto Bhagavatam with Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravartis, and Srila Gurudev's commentaries.
And then
For me,
Vishnu,
all of you.
Vishnu Prabhu and Aarti Didi?
I know, I don't know if I'm right or wrong. He's a big fan of Jeev Dharam.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, good.
And I think I've read, she's been reading a lot of Bhagavad Gita and different,
Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam.
Okay, nice. And then finally, Mukunda Prabhuji and Mohini Didi?
I think for her, Jaiva Dharma also, she's gone back over it a number of times. I don't know if that's just because of the instruction of Gurudev to read it multiple times, but she seems to like that. But she likes a lot of different ones, so I don't know if that's true or not. What do you say?
Is it correct?
Yeah, it's good, but I like the Rasa
Panchadai
Panchadai.
also.
Acha, nice.
And I think for him is the Venu Geet.
Is it correct?
I think maybe more for me now, it just could be a thing, is maybe Sandarbhas. Because years of absorption studying Sandarbhas, so it may be it. And also I like Goswami Granth, Utkari Kavalari, and Hamsadut, like this. And Ras Panchadai also with commentaries.
So yeah, thank you all so much for participating in that. There's one question, and then I will let you go because I know Srila Gurudev is very timely and we're a little bit over time. But The question is, it's one thing to be convicted not to divorce ever once married. How does one develop that conviction with a potential partner during the dating or courtship phase so it actually gets to marriage?
We didn't have dating and courtship phase. We didn't have dating and courtship phase. Marriage was arranged and we got married.
It was our aim. We knew we would get married right away.
We were best friends.
Okay.
We kind of planned our own marriage so we wouldn't have to go through dating and all of that.
Yeah, I think
We never dated, we never went out.
Yeah, we actually spent about 20 minutes with each other before we decided to get married. So basically, Gurudev had met her, and then my family had met her. I was doing my PhD here. I went to India, and we went into a room. We spoke for 15-20 minutes, and we came out and we said.
And in those 15 minutes, he recited 2 shlokas of Bhagavatam, and he just asked me to, he wanted me to take initiation from Srila Gurudev. And, we were talking about Srila Gurudev, and that's it.
But now we sometimes joke, had we gone out on a date, we probably would have never gotten married. So it was a good thing that we didn't go out on a date.
Wow.
I think also we were kind of determined because we had both been in ISKCON for a long time, so we didn't really have so much courting phase. We spoke on the phone somewhat, but everything was geared towards we're going to get married. Other than that, we weren't too much like men and women associating. It's just, I think that's from the previous of ISKCON days. So once we met and decided, and then we actually talked about pragmatic things like what we want in life, what we want to accomplish. That at the time that because I met Srila Gurudev originally in '86 when I came for Padayatra with ISKCON, but then in '92 I started writing him and everything. So I was already convicted that I was going to take shelter of Gurudev. So we discussed that because she was also in ISKCON previously, and she was completely fine with that. So we were determined we would get married, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. So you're saying that the conviction really it should be there early on, that you both will enter into this commitment together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I never will want to enter into it thinking that I want a divorce. That, sometimes things just don't work the way, you want them or you plan it to, but I wouldn't enter into it thinking that I'm going to divorce. Yeah.
Right. Well, honestly, this has been such an incredible 2 hours of just hearing from such stalwart Grihastha devotees who are under the shelter and guidance of, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, and are so dedicated to following their instructions, so committed to their vows, and also committed to not divorcing. And this is something that I really gathered from all of you. You both are very committed to each other. You both are very near and dear friends, and you both are helping each other in your spiritual journeys. And it's so encouraging. And I hope that what everyone else can gather from this, who is watching this now, who will watch this later, is this same conviction that if you do enter into Grihastha ashram, that it should be with the same seriousness and commitment as if you were offering your very self to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga as a pair, as a couple. So I am so completely grateful, so completely indebted to all of you for taking the time this morning or this night, for Kishori Mohan Prabhu and Sudevi Didi. I know you just left your class and then entered into this. So I'm so incredibly grateful to all of you. Hope I don't cry, but thank you all so much. Sorry. I think it's because all of you have so much dedication to Srila Gurudev, and it's something that even my mom said, it's making my heart smile. We both have big smiles, and I honestly can say, hearing all of the instruction Srila Gurudev has given you guys, just I've been smiling this entire time. So thank you all so, so much. And I'm hoping for everyone who's watching that this is not something that it's a one and done thing. We hope to have individually, possibly these same couples, if not other couples, to come on. And this, Grihast perspective will continue so that we can also hear from other really amazing Grihast devotees. So my humble Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vancha kalpatru bhisha kripasindhu vaimcha patitanam
Thank you, Didi, for organizing it, and thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. That
Oh,
was
very good job, Didi.